So, firstly, I want to ask the both of you your journey in law. How did law come about? How did how did that calling happen? If both of
Lakshmi, you
you
want
all
to go
can tell
first?
us.
Okay, sure. So I think it's the usual seeing a movie, seeing the lawyer in his black robes arguing there. I found that to be very interesting. This was in my 10th standard itself. So I remember we had essays to write in our exams, and one of the essays, where do you see yourself? And in Hindi, I was writing an essay stating that I wanted to be a lawyer. So I think in my 10th standard itself that knew that I wanted to become a lawyer. 11th and 12th, I started prepping towards that, towards studying during for the entrance exams. And yeah, then finally did my law from after my 12th standard. So I did a 5-year course then.
And it's never looking back after that, right?
Not at all. Love it.
And how about you, Ashwin, sir?
So I'm a second generation lawyer. My father was a lawyer, but at his very early stage, he took up a judiciary. So he was a part of the judiciary. So that had a very major influence in my decision making. I think in my earlier years, my father's lifestyle, his capacity to try and be relevant in the society is something that put the first impression on my mind. Thereafter, personalities, when you read in history, personalities such as Dr. Ambedkar, M.G. Gandhi, all these people who could actually make a difference to the society or to the course of history in the country had also a very, very big impact in my understanding about the relevance of law in society building. And that kind of inspired me at a early stage to look at law as an option. Although at that point in time, it was not known to be one of the most lucrative options, but of course, there's always a window for that. But these were the primary elements that influenced me to take up law.
Wow. But after we joined the law school, we see our peers getting attracted towards corporate law. So how did litigation happen and how did criminal law come about for the both of you?
So
Lakshmi, please.
basically, I started exploring various internships from my first year itself. I joined a corporate internship first. It was for 1 month. I was studying in Symbiosis, Pune. So as and when I had my vacation, I would come to Bombay and apply for internships. So my first internship was a corporate internship because that's what one would think usually to get into. But I found it to be extremely boring for my personality because it was all about sitting behind a desk, looking at paperwork, reading quite a few documents. I didn't find that interesting or challenging in any manner. And that's when I thought, why not litigation? So going to court. And thankfully, in my second year itself, I had the opportunity to intern under Mr. Satish Manishinde, who's a criminal lawyer. And that internship, that 1 month of my first internship under him itself made me realize that this is exactly what I want to do because I want to go to court. I want that courtroom drama. I wanted to be thinking on your feet, not sitting behind a desk. It, of course, involved a lot of running around, but it was definitely way more exciting for me rather than corporate law. And criminal law, once I started reading the briefs as an intern, I realized that each case was different in nature. And in each case, you had to apply your mind in a different manner. And that sort of excited my mind. So therefore, I chose and stuck to criminal law itself.
And how about you, sir?
So although I have been stereotyped as a criminal lawyer, my practice is not fully criminal law. As much as I enjoy criminal law, because I think it's very intricate. There are I think in many ways, it's a lot more challenging intellectually than civil law because there is so much procedure and the relevance of evidence and the manner in which it has to be introduced during the course of the proceeding. There are so many challenging interpretations and there are so many ways that you can do it that it becomes very, very intellectually challenging. And therefore, although as much as I enjoy criminal law, so in fact, I started. My father was as I told you was a magistrate, so I saw a lot of criminal law in the initial stages because the magistracy is where the criminal law or proceedings usually start. After that, I also interned with Mr. Manishinde. In fact, I was a paralegal with him for almost 2.5, 3 years. But the moment I got my law degree, I have never really worked as a junior to any criminal lawyer. I've been showered with a lot of kindness by Mr. Desai, by Mr. Jetmali, by Mr. Manishinde, and all of them, with their very astute legal knowledge. But I started my career with AZB and Partners, which is a corporate law firm. Then I went with Mr. Pesi Modi, who's a senior counsel in the original side and does a lot of securities law. And whilst I was there, I started getting a lot of independent briefs for criminal related matters, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that my father was a magistrate, the fact that I was with Mr. Manchinde, and because I interned over there, I think I understood the system of the criminal judicial justice system a little better, like how right from filing to the clerkage to everything very, very easily. And I realized that a lot of law firms did not have that expertise because they focused a lot on corporate and arbitration and civil practice. So it was easier for them to reach out to me because I knew the system or the machinery a little better and handhold through the entire process. So I got stereotyped as a criminal lawyer. But I think as of today, a lot of students do get attracted to corporate law. That was once a position that because corporate law is a place where sometimes the monetary aspect is very attractive. To start with, you get a good salary and things like that. Whereas on the litigation side, the gestation period could be pretty long. I mean, citing my own example, I started with AZB. I had a very good salary, but I moved towards litigation because, of course, I also thought that it was my temperament. It was something that I wanted to be a part of litigation rather than corporate. It's a very personal choice. But you see, the gestation period, even I realize, is slightly longer. Fortunately for me, it wasn't all that longer. But to make do of for day-to-day practice or day-to-day living or everything, you need with some monetary compensation, right? And on the litigation side, it may not necessarily be that smooth. So I think that's a very, very massive factor for students when they consider that, because everybody wants to pursue LLM and all those things. And, at least you are able to save up some money in the initial stages and get independent if you have a good salary, which is a very, very big contributing factor. But I'm seeing the whole wave changing now. I think there is from law schools, from local law colleges, a lot of janta or a lot of students are now looking towards litigation as a very, very viable option. And this trend that you speak of, people going towards the corporate side, I think it's more in the law schools. If you see from law colleges, or if you see law colleges across the country, I mean, the regular government law college and all these other, you will see a lot of students also moving towards litigation, a lot of them. But as I said, because of the initial challenges, then everybody then chooses whatever is most suitable for themselves. But yes, I think for me, I would say that yes, criminal law is something that I've been stereotyped as, and I do a lot more than that.
So, sir, on an average, how long is the gestation period in your observation?
See, it's a very subjective question. Basically, there are several factors to it. When you are trying to do litigation, look, I personally feel when you come into practice, it takes several skills. One of the most important skill is, of course, developing yourself as a lawyer. Your art of advocacy. How do you read law? How do you interpret law? How do you present the law? How do you draft the law? That itself is a 3-year, 4-year process. Okay. How do you debrief from the client? How do you then make a list of dates and events? Or on the corporate side, how do you understand the expectations of the transaction? And then you inculcate that in your agreements and things like that. These are all things which anyways takes you to understand as a lawyer. As I said, to read, understand, and interpret the law. It takes anything between 3 years to 4 years. After that, it is about being able to cultivate a clientele, right? And that is another aspect about practice, that you have to bring in an entrepreneurial skill to yourself. Even if you are in a law firm, in the initial stages, you have the law firm's brand name to attract a particular client or attract some work towards your skill set. But after a certain point in time, even the law firms then leave you on your own, and they give you targets to try and get as much work as possible. And even if you're independent for your survival, you need work. No matter how skilled you are, if you don't have an opportunity, if you don't have the outlet to present that case or to get that case, it's going to be of no use, right? So as I said, that entrepreneurial skill comes after 4 to 5 years, where you can now, where you know now, you're confident that you now know the law. You're going out, you're trying to solicit clients, you're trying to tell them that you're good enough. That period could be another addition of 2 3 years or something. So the to have a stable practice, where you feel a little more confident about yourself, because you have to keep a lot of other things in mind, that there are other people in the profession who are already senior to you, who already have several advantages or whatever. Those things, I think it takes anything between 6 to 7 years to stabilize a little bit. You may start, you may be able to start bringing in some amount of income at a early stage. I'm not saying that the income is a challenge, but stabilizing your practice. And then several things matter: your personal entrepreneurial skill, your family background, your second generation, first generation, whatever, how, your friend circle, everything. You get matters from your friends from your law firm, you get matters from maybe your father, you may get matters from your senior, you can get matters. So all these things, it takes time. It's a human element. It takes time for one person to trust another person with a very responsible job of being a lawyer, and to win somebody's trust is a time taking process. So that gestation is nothing but that time taking process, to win that confidence. So you
So
you
one
see
has to
how.
be very
Yeah.
patient and dedicated.
Yes, and one has to, keep that in mind, that that it takes that much time to win somebody's faith and trust.
Yes. So Lakshmi, you are a first generation lawyer. How challenging was it for you to establish yourself?
It was pretty challenging. So my personal experience would be once I became an advocate, I worked under Satish Manishande sir, and he was kind enough to allow us to take our own matters as well. So getting clients at that moment, as Ashwin said, it took at least 3 4 years for me to read, understand the law, learn from my seniors in the chamber. And I think after those 3 4 years, I started getting clients approaching me in court itself. So they don't know who I am. They just are people who can't afford lawyers. So I started off with doing pro bono work. Once I got a hang of the clients, and continued doing their work, whether it be a bail application or some conducting some trials, that's when I got more confidence within myself in carrying out that work successfully. So I started out the entire thing not with keeping money in mind, but with keeping the fact that I need to gain that experience. And it is only me, myself, who can teach myself how to do it. You can only go to court and observe these things. You can only learn these things when you are making some practical use of it. Neither Ashwin nor I can sit here and teach any of these students exactly how to become a criminal lawyer. It's up to them itself to learn it with their own eyes and their own experience. So my entire career started with getting pro bono clients and thereafter appearing more in court. And over the years, after around 6 years or so, you build a name of yourself in court. When people come and see you appear, then more and more clients approach you. There are clients in jail who, in fact, send their relatives to your office then and stating that they have heard from their inmates inside that you did a great job in getting them bail. So thereafter, they come with their matters. So not being a first generation lawyer is not much of a disadvantage. It's about exactly how you perceive it and how you can use that to your advantage itself. Because if I enter court, no one knows who I am. I don't have a certain standard to keep. I learn from the very basics. No one has their eyes on me, and that helps a lot. Just because you are a first generation lawyer, that should not mean that, okay, I do not have contacts, so how am I going to get clients? It's all about how you build yourself to be a lawyer, and you really need to be passionate about criminal law in order to reach far enough in this career.
Yes. Now moving to the areas of practice. What are the emerging areas of practice in criminal law?
Yes, as I think rightly pointed out, the white collar is something that is now busy side of practice. But I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to the conventional practice. I think a substantial practice is still the old Indian Penal Code, and now which is more or less the same in the new laws too. So that is a very conventional practice, and a substantial part still comprises of that. The whole money laundering, Benami transactions, and all these white collar related practices have now started emerging, but they are still not that high in number, although they might be today occupying the front pages, because most of the people who get prosecuted are from the political background, or somebody who's a big finance house or something like that, and therefore they occupy front pages. But that still does not constitute the very large side of practice. I think one of the area which has really boomed is these sexual offenses. I think POXO cases have really spiked up. The courts, even just 2 days back, I was having a conversation with a across the bar with a senior judge in the high court, and he did also happen to mention that one of the highest number of final hearings that he's now engaged with are POXO related cases. So POXO is an area which has really spiked up. The other area is the Prevention of Corruption Act. One of the some of the hearings, or the final hearings that we now hear a lot about, are the Prevention of Corruption Act, which is also a type of a white collar crime. Then other than that is the usual cheating, forgery, then body offenses. But to answer your question specifically, the spike in cases largely has been in POXO related matters and corruption related matters. And then corruption related matters also sometimes take a turn of money laundering, and therefore the white collar crime related corruption, money laundering cases have spiked up.
Okay. And
Not
how
to
about
mention
Section 138?
cybercrime,
Sorry, Lakshmi.
and not to mention cybercrime cases as
Yes,
well.
of
For the
course,
use of
cybercrime. Yes.
technology now that everyone has access to their phones, that has
Yeah.
definitely risen. We all get spam messages every day, I'm sure.
Yeah. And how
But
about
even with
Section
the
138?
cybercrime cases eventually comes down to the IPC cheating, forgery, unless it's like a hacking case. But you don't see so many hacking cases, rather than use of technology for siphoning of funds, which is again coming down to the regular IPC and things like that.
Correct.
In relation to 138 cases, yes, I mean that's a lot of lawyers
Yes.
in the magistrate court, and but it's again over there. I think the law over there has consolidated so much that they have become very cyclo-styled in nature to some extent. Sorry, another area I think I should mention is the SEBI-related criminal prosecution. I think that is also an area which has now emerged. SEBI-related prosecutions, where SEBI violations are also being prosecuted, and there also again there is so much overwhelming material, because everything is on record that the SEBI brings, that it becomes a very challenging case when you appear on the defense side. But that's again an area where there is a good amount of litigation.
I think every
Okay.
time an act comes into force, like the POXO Act is 2012, the IT Act is 2000. So every time they get a very specific act and provide for offenses, that suddenly becomes booming. It's a new interesting aspect, therefore.
So for our participants, can you all list the legislations that come under criminal law? Of course.
That can be a very wide list. I mean, there is MCOCA, there is UAPA, there is now the BNSS,
BNS,
BNS,
BSA,
correct. Those, then white collar, again, there is, I don't
PMLA.
know, PMLA is there, Prevention of Corruption, the Companies Act, the Benami Transactions Act. I mean, the list can just
The list
absolutely
goes
go.
on.
Yeah. So that's going to be, very difficult to give an exhaustive list. But as I said, the most frequent ones are the regular IPC and the BNS and all those. The Prevention of Corruption Act, now the Money Laundering Act, and 138, yes, if you want to call
Yes.
that a criminal matter.
I think
It is
we've all
actually.
started with a 138 case, right?
Yeah, sometime.
but never completed
But
it.
it's very misplaced. That as a junior in my initial stages, I used to really think, "Arey, ye 138 ka kya case hai?" But I once I in my career I have appeared for some of the most dreaded criminals. MCOCA criminals. Now I can call them criminals because they've been convicted. At that point of time, they were accused. So, and I got those cases because I had appeared for one of their friends in a 138 match. So I think one should never undermine a 138 matter. I think again
Correct.
the because the law, also the interpretation in relation to 138, such a small legislation is also has been taking such pendulous patterns. Once there was this Dashrath Rathod case, which just all of a sudden changed the jurisdiction of 138, and the entire
Correct.
country
There was
was in the
havoc.
yeah. So that's what I said, right? A criminal law, the interpretations can be so intricate that it makes you really, really enjoy the whole, criminal justice system, and challenges you intellectually every now and then, which is what is very, very enjoyable about this side of practice.
Yeah, 138 Negotiable Instruments Act, which is check bouncing.
A participant is asking, what about family law?
Yeah, so see, family law, predominantly there are three proceedings which usually are undertaken under the family law. The one goes on before the family court, which is a civil proceeding. The second is a domestic violence proceeding. Now, a domestic violence proceeding, although it goes on before a magistrate, it is a civil proceeding. It is not where punishments are given, only protection orders are given, and it is the remedies or the reliefs that you seek from the civil divorce court, for example, maintenance and all those things. That you another forum for seeking the similar or same reliefs has been given to you by way of a domestic violence act. So the perception that domestic violence act is a criminal law is not accurate. Of course, there is a criminal side to us, which is the 498A case, and yes, that is an area again which was spiked up. But there, because it had spiked up so much, and the court thought that there was an overuse or abuse of that particular legislation, the Supreme Court has time and again rationalized that law by telling the police not to go and arrest people in a 498A case. That is one of those family disputes. And therefore, because the arrests have reduced to a large extent, I think even the 498 cases to some extent have kind of, started not, kind of rationalizing a little more.
And can you shed a participant is asking, can you shed some light on CRPC section 125? What are the opportunities in that?
That personally cannot be a practice area. I don't think you'll be able to survive only with 125. That too, there are clients who want money, so I don't think how they'll pay you. But that goes hand in hand with what Ashwin said of 498A DV. It goes hand in hand with all those matrimonial matters. And you can't enter criminal law into saying that he can now, I will only focus in negotiable instruments, I will only focus on 125 CRPC. You have to take it all into consideration because there are so many a variety of acts. You need a variety of clients in order to improve your practice. You cannot just focus on only one area. Like look at Ashwin, for example. He's dipped his feet into criminal law and then he's moved on to the SEBI aspect of it also, which is a combination of company law plus criminal prosecution. So there are very interesting aspects, and I'm sure more will come along the way as well.
Yeah.
Also,
Now
I
I
think
want
in
to.
the initial
Yes, sir.
stages, I think every law student or any person who's in the junior stages, I think one should not think about I want to about focusing on any particular stream of law. I think the initial focus should be in developing yourself as a lawyer. As I said, I have been stereotyped as a criminal lawyer, but I never started off with criminal law. I mean, my entire, initial 5 to 7 years has been pure, completely out of criminal law. But, the only thing I focused on, and my mentors like Mr. Desai and all always guided me that you please focus on developing yourself as a lawyer, how to read the law, how to interpret the law, how to present the law. That is something that you should be focusing upon in your first at least 3 to 4 years. In fact, my principle is that if you think that you want to do criminal law, you do every law first. You do your corporate law, you do civil law. I mean, experiment with law if you have the luxury to do that, or if you have the bandwidth to do it for the initial 4 or 5 years. so that you have an overall understanding of the profession and how the profession functions. Today, when I'm doing white collar crime, I'm able to understand how corporates think, or what are they thinking when they're putting a certain thing in their agreement to come to a conclusion. And it helps me immensely when I'm strategizing even a criminal matter with between two corporates, or where there is a white collar crime involved. The thought process of corporate is something that helps me in getting in understanding my what could have transpired to put in a certain clause in a particular agreement which is under dispute. So you have to focus on enriching yourself with as much thought processes on different sides of the spectrum, and then come to a particular this thing. Okay, now that you finish, because our profession that way is very, very rigid. Once you start getting stereotype and start getting work, they will not brief you on the other side. Once you start getting criminal law, getting your briefs for arbitration becomes very difficult. Once you start getting stereotyped as a civil arbitration lawyer, you will never get a criminal law brief. It's so you will never get to experiment with your intellectual capacity or thought process of the law. So therefore, initial stages you should do everything as much as possible, and then after 5-6 years say that, okay, now I want to do criminal law or whatever law you want to choose. That.
I'm sure Ashwin means with starting by internships as well. In your internships
Absolutely,
during your
yes.
college as well, you try out different areas. You can thereafter get a feeler from what it is like working at those kind of places and what law it is that you'd be studying.
But I'll just add something over there, Lakshmi. I think my experience with internships has been that interns are there usually for a month or 3 months. And therefore, there is a reluctance from workplaces or seniors to give them any responsible work, because any litigation takes a very long period, or any transaction also takes a very long period. So in a month or 2 months, 3 months, you cannot put a lot of responsibility on any person. So therefore, the interns do not get the real flavor of that stream of profession or of law over there. But therefore, what becomes important at that stage is to understand the work culture of every place. You have to understand every law firm, although they might be doing the same law, will have a different work culture. A counsel also, you work with X counsel, you work with Y counsel, they may be doing criminal law, but their work style and culture may be very, very different. So as interns, I think because you're there only for a month and a half, of course, focus on the law, but I think to a large extent, focus on the work cultures that exist in our profession.
Even if you choose probably to intern at a smaller firm rather than one of your big tier three firms, that would in fact provide more insight because those seniors may be willing to put in more effort into training you or teaching you the law. So again, it depends on what kind of seniors you go to, what kind of law firms you choose, what kind of chambers you choose for your internships. It's not
Absolutely.
about the brand name at that point of time.
Okay, a participant is asking, after graduation, in order to develop one's skills, what would you recommend? Joining a chamber or joining a law firm?
If we're talking about criminal law, then definitely a chamber only. Of course, we are talking about people wanting to
Criminal.
become a criminal lawyer today. Definitely joining a chamber, hands down, because that is where you get the groundwork. You get to learn the groundwork. You get to learn right from the department work, visiting police stations, drafting here, sitting in on conferences with your senior counsels. If you go to a law firm, maybe the law firm partner is not the one who's actually appearing in court. They will send their associate or senior associate to go and brief a counsel, and you may or may not be allowed to sit in on those meetings as well. You will not know what a police station looks like. You will not know how to speak to a cop over the phone. You would not know how to get basic department work done. And criminal law is all about knowing and understanding the people because we are a whole community as our own. You have cops, you have court clerks, you have the JC staff, and you have the judges, of course. So you need to sit, hear them, understand their human behavior, and understand what exactly it is you need to do to get your job done. And these things a law firm is not going to teach you. It is only chamber practice, counsel practice that's going to teach you this.
I think, one of the most important things that one should look at the initial stages is finding a good mentor. And a good mentor can be anywhere. He could be in a law firm. He could be in a corporate. He could be in a independent practice. Because what you really want is that somebody who will be able to make at least some effort to groom you. Of course, Lakshmi rightly said that the major fulcrum of developing yourself or becoming a lawyer that you are is completely upon yourself. But I think you learn a lot by mimicking your seniors, right? And therefore, your whole work ethos, right, from the manner in which you deal with your client, the way you want to charge your clients, the way you want to debrief your client, everything. I think that largely you start mimicking your senior or the person who you work, and therefore you it becomes very very important to find the right mentor. And how do you find the right mentor? You guys, as we said earlier, that you first go in your internship periods and you identify which is the most suitable work culture for you. Then you do your research that in that kind of work culture, which is the senior who is known to have the temperament of somebody who trains you. Like as I said, we've been very very blessed to have very very kind seniors. In our growing up period, there was Mr. Manchin, there was Mr. Desai, Mr. Jetmani, Zia, Som. We could just walk up to them and ask them a query at any point of time. But for that, we had to build that rapport. Of course, we had to wait till our turn came, but they were patient enough to actually address our queries. But you need to find the right mentor. Like I was Pacey's junior, and Pacey, I did my research to find out that who is one of the seniors who actually devotes some time to his junior to train them.
Yeah.
And Pacey was somebody who had that reputation. So I went and joined him because at that point in time, he was not a senior counsel, but he was somebody who was known to be an excellent senior. So, you have to do your research and go and join a person who you feel will be the right fit for you. Like, that movie Avatar, you have to go and find that person who that, that right, that particular, that big,
Yeah,
and that flying animal is there. You have to go and see
yeah,
that whether you click with that person.
that's
So
right,
in the
that's right.
beginning, he actually bites. That's what most seniors do. They come and bite you first. They'll come and test you first. Even I do that. That I'll be strict with them first. But if the person is like able to, take it, then you fly and soar with the person. That is what, find the right mentor for yourself
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
put in an effort for it. Don't think it'll land up.
And for a criminal law practice, which city is preferable, Mumbai or Delhi? I know both of y'all are primarily based out of Mumbai, but a participant wants to know.
So in criminal law, it depends where you are born and brought up from as well, because all your FIRs and charge sheets in Bombay are in Marathi. In Delhi, they're in Hindi and English. So I think that also matters in the beginning. Maybe not in the high court level, but in the beginning for sure. Because if you are going to be reading the FIRs and charge sheet, you have to know the language. So if you want to spend time in learning a new language, then great. But if you're not from Maharashtra, then of course Delhi. I don't have a
I
very
think
good opinion about Delhi, so I'll let Ashwin talk about Delhi.
No, I think, look, in both the cities, the practice area has, the volume of work has really, really increased. And therefore, opportunities are massive in both the cities as of today, in comparison to most cities. In fact, even a city like Pune today has a tremendous amount of criminal law because of the rising, real estate prices. There's a lot of cheating,
Yeah,
a lot of body crime that are taking place. So
yeah,
these are places with massive opportunities. From a practical perspective, these are also places where the paying capacity of the clients is pretty decent. From a logistic perspective, it's a very personal thing, as rightly pointed out by Lakshmi. Bombay is a very, very expensive place to stay. Then there are these issues about translating knowing the local language,
language.
the ease of knowing the locals. Delhi to that extent will have its own set of challenges, but both of them have tremendous opportunities, and I think both cities, therefore. But the one of the aspects which we have been experiencing is that the disposal or the access to justice or to the system as such today I'm told that in Delhi is a lot better than in Bombay. Like in Bombay, unfortunately, the courts are slacking. The bail applications and even things like bail applications and anticipatory bail applications are pending in the High Court and for months, and the person is being behind bars just because he's not getting an opportunity to. Now, just imagine you're a junior lawyer, you get a case, and you are not getting a hearing for 3 months. What will the client think? Arey, ye to, isko to aata hi nahi,
Hmm.
So in
Absolutely.
Delhi, I'm told those kind of things do not happen. It's much faster than Bombay. So these kind of logistic challenges are there, in Bombay. But opportunity wise, I think both of them have tremendous opportunity. And if you are able to fit in either of the places, then I think you'll be able to flourish well.
Lakshmi, I want to ask you, we are often advised that criminal law is not meant for a woman because it has its own set of challenges. What is your view on that? Because, we have to deal with maybe a rapist or, police officials. So what is your opinion on that?
Even I thought the same before I joined into the career. But to be honest, I've never really found any hindrance owing to my gender as to me not being able to do my work. In fact, when I started attending police stations in my first year itself, I found the cops to be a lot more respectful and forthcoming towards helping me out. They, in fact, I would say, treat me better than any guy coming into the police station because I think women have this certain, sorry, Ashwin, I think women have a certain soft skill in us, and we are able to communicate better to a normal police officer, not in a very, hoity-toity attitude or being in a very authoritative manner. We know how exactly to behave to get our work done, and that's with respect to police officers. With respect to dealing with rapists and all, if you are a woman and you're entering this line, you have to already have it in your head that you cannot mix up the two. You may have your personal feelings at one side, but when it's work, it's work. And the principle that you are a lawyer, you need to represent your client to the best of your abilities. Rest is up to the judge. You do your best and should put forth the evidence before the judge. Rest is up to the judge to decide. So you cannot compromise your case basis on this of your personal emotions coming into play. Like I remember, I think this was in my fourth or fifth year of getting my sanad. I had a POXO trial where I had to cross-examine a 12-year-old girl who was raped. And it was definitely very strange for me. But at that moment, I didn't feel any emotion or any impulsive thing. I was in fact very gentle with her. Whatever I wanted, I just asked her calmly, got my answers, and I exited the courtroom. And I was like, did I just do that to a girl? But then I realized what's wrong. It's a justice system, right? The accused also has to have a fair trial. He gets his opportunity in court, and better me cross-examining a girl victim than some weird guy advocate coming and probably badgering her with questions where she may feel humiliated or insulted. So I think it's even better women lawyers come on the defense side because, sorry, Ashwin again, but I think we know how to treat another woman who's probably on the stand. Like we would not want to put her through what we wouldn't want to go through. So it's that empathy that we do have, which I feel helps us to our advantage. So for women, criminal law is definitely not something you should go like, oh, I'm a girl, so I can't do it. It's quite advantageous being a woman in this field.
So, any insights?
See, I think just generally, the profession, I think, has not been very conducive as a workplace for women. I think things are changing substantially. I think there has been a major mindset change. The number of female judges, the number of female advocates who are now in coming in as colleagues has also changed, and therefore I think to a large extent the environment has changed. Look, there is a certain thick skin irrespective of the gender that one has to develop when you're there in the profession, right? Because there are certain emotional elements, there are certain predicaments that you have to face, or you may have to answer to yourself. But that I think are gender neutral. think that is something that you do. For example, me personally, I don't take up any rape cases or any sexual violence case unless I am convinced myself that this is an ex facie false case. Otherwise, I do not, as a matter of principle, take rape cases. Now, whether it is right, wrong, each one has their own perspective, and there is a very strong perspective which says that, look, listen, you at the end of the day, it's your duty, it's your to present any accused person's case, and therefore one should not sit in judgment. But it's my personal call, right? I don't want to do it, so therefore that is it. But that's why I said that it's a certain amount of thick skin that one has to develop in the profession, and as long as the professional, that is you, are not crossing a certain limit. I have seen, my personal experience has been that the clients also then do not cross their limits, right? You will see of cases where sometimes the lawyers are promising wrong things to criminals, that we will get you guaranteeing justice and this and that. Now, if you go to bed with a client like this by giving him, by telling him that I will do X for you, Y for you, and this and that, and you are obviously, messing with a criminal. So the repercussions are likely to follow, right? And that is irrespective of a gender, whether it's a guy a lawyer or a lady lawyer. So the moment you cross the certain etiquette level, the client can then start taking liberties. And I think over a period of time, you do start getting a sense of which is a client one can avoid and which is a client one cannot. So I think to a large extent, the lady lawyers also, like any other lawyers, start understanding that. And there could be, I'm not saying that there can be no irritant in the court. There are always certain irritants in the court. And that is something that a lot of lady lawyers do face. But yes, there are mechanisms now which are more active and available than what there used to be. So it is becoming a lot more easier and a more conducive place for women to come and work with. Sorry.
I think that happened when I entered the career because it seemed a lot more relaxed than what I had heard about as to how bad it is for a lady to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, even now, if you see the number of lady judges is a lot
Yes.
more than, when even I joined the profession, the number of lady judges were very few. Now the
Correct.
number of lady judges are also much higher, and therefore
We
you
have a
also see a
division
lot of,
bench with two
yes,
lady judges.
yeah, even the sessions court and the magistrate court, there are so many lady judges on the bench, and
Yeah.
therefore the number of lady lawyers have also therefore increased.
Correct, correct. In fact, the High Court has recently opened some daycare center near the High Court
Yes,
for
yeah,
women who have children to put them.
that's right.
What are the skills required to be a successful criminal lawyer?
You need your analytical skills, you need your presence of mind, you need logical thinking, you need to be able to put yourself in your client's shoes. You need to have that ability to understand what he was thinking at that point in time. You need to understand the mindset of the complainant as well. Mm,
Can I
definitely
summarize that
oratory
in one word?
skills. Yes.
You need
Interpersonal.
to be a good trial lawyer. Yeah, but
That's
yes, all
right.
this. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you need to have mostly the soft skills rather than theory. Of course, law is important for sure. But when you get a matter, you read a matter, you need to be able to analyze ki, theek hai, okay, this has come in, but this statement says this statement is contradictory to this. So it's basically finding what all the differences are. And that critical thinking is very much required. Well, and out of the box thinking, as people keep saying. But yeah.
Yeah, I think, see, one, you need to be very, very thorough. Okay. And as I told you that the Criminal Procedure Code, the Indian Evidence Act, these are these are two legislations which you really, really need to know and see it in action, personally. And I think that you do see a lot when you are conducting a trial. So I think to be a good criminal lawyer, you need to be a good trial lawyer first. Okay, because otherwise you will be reduced to just being a bail or an anticipatory bail lawyer, which can maybe get you the money for the day, but
Mm.
will not uh,
Not the brains for it.
not the brains to be a real criminal lawyer. Criminal law is about interpreting the actual sections, provisions with the evidence in it. Even for example, if you're arguing in the High Court, a final hearing appeal, not an anticipatory bail, but a final hearing, which is what lays down the law, what amounts to a conviction and what does not amount to a conviction. Now, the manner in which the evidence has been, the questions have been asked are recorded in an evidence, right? So when you're reading the evidence, if you have done your trial law a lot more or well enough, you will know what is the direction in which this particular questionnaire has been asked, why a particular question has been asked, and what is the case that he was building up, and therefore what is the material in relation to that. So, and being a trial lawyer encompasses or brings with it the necessity of being extremely thorough, extremely meticulous, extremely incisive in nature, and somebody who's very, very studious. Okay. Now you will see a lot of lawyers who trial lawyers who may not be that, but that does not mean that is not to be done. I think to have a successful trial to be conducted very, very well, as I said, you need to know your facts extremely thoroughly. You need to have taken very, very in-depth and thorough briefing from your clients and then applied the law to it. And that's how you start asking your questions. The facts become very, very relevant, and then the law comes in, right? So
Yeah.
I think to be a good criminal lawyer in the long run, focus on your trials, catch hold of a very, very good trial lawyer, learn the trials with him, conduct trials yourself, and then you will know how the law has, been absorbed by you to be a good criminal lawyer.
A few participants want to know any book recommendations, or would you recommend some course that they can take up for a good career?
Every book that you can find. There is no book that you should not read. And course, just go and sit in court with the scene. See it in
Yes,
action.
100%.
Does LLM make any difference?
For academic pursuits, yes, it is good. Otherwise, I'm not an LLM.
I don't waste your time studying further when you can sit in court and observe and learn practically.
No, it can be of academic contribution to that extent,
Academic,
yes.
yes, definitely. But if you want to jump into litigation and start practicing, I don't
Yeah.
see any benefit.
And what are the challenges that come up in your practice? Since it is said criminal law is a high risk career.
Oh, it's not a high risk career at all. But yes, there are several challenges. Lakshmi, you want to give a first go at it?
First goes the only high risk is when you start off the monetary compensation of it is very less. That's all. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward. There's no high risk as such, unless only when you become, I think, a very famous lawyer who defends gangs, you would require security personnel along with you. But there's no, that was one of the reasons my mother even asked me whether I'm sure I wanted to do criminal law because everyone thinks that it's going to be high risk. What if you don't get the order that your client approves of? Would your client come thereafter to threaten you? But nothing like that happens. There are so many of us criminal lawyers around. There's no high risk as such.
Okay. So, any challenges that you feel that a criminal lawyer faces?
Yeah. I think the lifespan, the life of a lawyer in itself is quite difficult. I think there are no separate such set challenges that a criminal lawyer faces. I think the only thing in Bombay that I've seen is that on the civil side, at least if you're practicing in the High Court, a massive source of work is the solicitor firms. They come and brief you, and you get to work on that. Whereas on the criminal side, there are no firms, so there is a lot of personal interaction and personal reach to the client when it comes on the criminal side. And that's why in the initial stage I said that you have to bring in to some extent an entrepreneur skill to your approach, because sourcing of work is one of the most important things. And if a law here there is no law firm feeding you work, so you have to actually go and get that. Like as rightly pointed out by Lakshmi, one of the best ways is to go and do a lot of pro bono work, go onto the legal aid panel and things like that. But then there might not be monetary compensation that may be available to you immediately. So the gestation period is the challenge, which irrespective of you choosing criminal law, it is a challenge for everybody else. But the criminal law, it could be a little more, because as I said, getting those clients to then pay you if you're not financially strong enough. More also at the same time, my personal experience has been, as I said, we have been very lucky that we had very, very good seniors. But I think other than that, on the criminal side, there could be very insecure seniors who may not be willing to share a lot of knowledge. They feel that if I share too much knowledge, the client may be taken away or something like that. So there is a lot of insecurity vis-a-vis your colleagues, or that one may face, because of which opportunities will become a little more difficult. So I think to that extent, that is some challenge, because as I said, it's a very personal thing. Everybody's trying to make a mark. It becomes a little more challenging to in the initial stages to establish or overcome these minor things. I would say, not these are not major things; these are minor.
I just want to add one thing with respect to pro bono work. It's just a disclaimer. Kindly do not take pro bono work if you're below 3 or 4 years of practice. Please don't get into the career and say, "हाँ ठीक है, मुझे experience चाहिए. I'll experiment on this person." It's a person's life at stake. Only after 3 or 4 years of practice, please take pro bono work.
Okay. So I think we are good to end the session. Any closing remarks before we conclude?
Okay, no, nothing. Just it's a really great fun field to work in. And only if you're passionate about criminal law, you must get into this. It involves a lot of running around. It's physically tiring. My entire day, it'll start in the morning, rushing to court, making it on time despite the rains and the traffic or the local trains being stuck. It's sitting in court. You'll have long hours of standing in court as well, because sometimes there's no place to sit. You're waiting for your matter to come up, or you may be holding a brief at that time. There may not be a clerk. It's very strenuous work that is to be done. So your mind has to be strong, because you're dealing with the alleged criminals. You're dealing with how to tackle them. And they aren't the easiest kind of clients to deal with. So your entire personality should be shaped in how to respond to these kind of clients who aren't probably the best to talk to. And also physical strength, your health is extremely important. So while you're prepping to become a criminal lawyer, please have lots of vitamins and keep yourself strong, because you're going to need your body for the next 15 years at least running around. And it's a very fun practice. I would advise everyone to come join criminal law.
Yeah, I think usually whenever a junior comes into the profession, I usually start by telling the person, "Welcome to the chaos. You're gonna love the joyride." Okay, so it's chaotic, but believe me, it's a joyride. And yes, one has to put your head down, focus on your work. Do not get influenced by by the things that are around you. For example, you will see, oh, somebody's doing so well. Oh, this person's got these judgments. Oh, this guy's with so and so, and at such a young age, and this and that. Look, you have to understand, it's not a race. There is no finish line to this. This is not that somebody is in front of anybody. That's not it's just not a race. If you are good enough, even if somebody does have a certain advantage of being a second generation lawyer, a judge's son, a senior counsel's son, whatever it is, even if they do have that, it only takes 5 years for any talent to come at par and either come at par with the person and do equally. Do not feel insecure by somebody else's success or the fact that you may not have that. Put your head down, keep very good company, because you are judged by the company that you keep. If you are going to be hanging with people who do not carry the correct work ethos, you may start getting identified by that kind of a company that you keep. So be very cautious about the company that you keep. Please write more and more articles. Please analyze and interpret the law on your own, and take your interpretation to other people also. Don't, at the end of the day, law is the instrument for society building, right? So please use it actively, not just for yourself, but for building society. And yes, the rest will follow. I mean, the money and all is something that just, that Three Idiots dialogue of Amir Khan, I think, is very, very apt, that the money just starts following you if you have the talent. Again, to all of you,
Absolutely.
welcome to the chaos, and you're going to love the joyride.
Awesome. So we formally conclude the session. Thank you so much, Lakshmi and Ashwin
Thank
sir, for
you.
such an illuminating talk. We plead desire that law students and junior advocates make informed career choices, and your talk today indeed helped all of us get clarity and illuminated the students on the area of criminal law. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
Thanks,
you. The pleasure is all
Malvika.
ours.
Yes, thanks for having us.